Hands up. Get your hands up. That's how he's treating a stranded citizen.
The defendant acted without considering or being aware of the substantial and unjustifiable risks associated with his conduct.
Today, we'll be going through cases of some of the most disturbing killer cops who committed some of the worst atrocities, but were later punished and sentenced in court.
March 7, 2019, Palm Beach officer Newman Raja learned the final outcome of his trial, following an action he took that led to the most horrific situation imaginable.
I have no idea what's going to happen right now. I do know one thing. There's going to be one side who's going to be brokenhearted. We know that for sure. What I ask everybody, and then I follow it up with I'm ordering, that I am respectful that this is the most pressure-packed moment for most people in their entire lives.
However, 8 days earlier, at the beginning of Raja's trial, the prosecution revealed the real story of why he was being held on the stand.
This all started back in October 2015. You'll hear about Corey Jones. He was living his life. Had a good job at the Delray Beach Housing Authority. Lived with his brother. Loved his family. Loved music. Music was his passion. He was a drummer. He played in bands. He played at family functions and organizations. And that's what he was doing on a Saturday night, October 17th of 2015.
Corey Jones was the victim in this case, and his encounter with Raja became the last moments of his life.
He's out at the middle of the night on the side of the road, stranded. And unlike a lot of folks in this world, he was patient, he was nice. All he wanted was some help to get home. You'll hear how he's giving her information just to get the help that he needs. But see, unfortunately for Corey Jones, his bad luck was turning much worse. Because unknown to him, that defendant was on duty.
Jones had requested non-emergency assistance, and while waiting, it was Officer Raja who responded.
See, he was a police officer at that time in the Palm Beach Gardens Police Department. He was working a detail, a plainclothes detail, where he was supposed to surveil neighborhoods, looking for car burglars. And if he saw anything, he's supposed to call up marked units to come and take care of the issue. And he has supposed to be wearing a tactical vest, like you see on TV, in the news, maybe in person, with big letters that say police across it, so everybody knows who he is.
Raja didn't bother with any of these precautions and instead proceeded to play both judge, jury, and executioner.
And instead of doing what everybody would expect a law enforcement officer to do when they're approaching a stranded, potentially abandoned, but at least a vehicle that's stranded on the side of the road, that defendant did everything wrong. He did everything that you would not expect.
In addition, during his trial, Raja claimed he had announced himself as an officer to Jones, but an audio recording disproved this. His blatant lying only made his case worse.
Now, Corey Jones, he's got an expensive drum kit. He goes into not the nicest parts of Delray Beach for his job. So he did what any lawful American can do. He purchased a firearm, .380 hand. You can't even try to create the situation that came about. He got that done 2 days prior to this event. It was still in the box in his glove compartment.
This would serve as a counter to another claim Raja had made, in which he stated his hand was forced due to Jones being armed.
Corey Jones knew what was exactly about to happen, what any reasonable person could expect to happen. You'll show through the evidence today and through the next 2 weeks what Corey Jones was thinking. You'll hear how Corey Jones had that gun out of that box. You'll hear the chimes of the door opening on Corey Jones' SUV because he still had the keys in the ignition. And you'll hear the last words that Corey Jones ever spoke.
There was no justification for Raja's actions other than sick pleasure. As was about to be explained, his actions were beyond disgusting.
Nothing that shows he's an officer. He didn't even pull out the badge, which was in his wallet, in his back pocket, to show to Corey Jones. much less put on that vest that said police or even had his radio or his gun. There's no verbal identification that you're going to hear on that recording of when Corey Jones was talking to that sales representative that had to sit there and witness this horrific event unfold.
Given how severe Raja's actions were made out to be, the reality of the situation fully merited this reaction by the prosecutor.
Yeah, I'm good. Really? That's what he's saying. That's not how an officer talks to a citizen at 3 o'clock in the morning on the side of the road. But that's how he spoke to what he saw with Corey Jones on the side of that road.
Raja had acted more like a street gang thug than a police officer, especially moments before the fatal incident.
As this defendant is saying these words to Corey Jones, and Corey Jones is responding back, he's getting closer and closer to Corey Jones. He's actually chasing Corey Jones away from his vehicle. Corey's already retreating back out of his doorway to the back of his vehicle. A citizen that's stranded on the side of the road, already being chased from his vehicle.
To imagine that Raja didn't stop to think for one moment before he profiled Jones is horrifying considering what happened next.
Get your hands up. Get your hands up. That's what he's screaming. That's how he's treating a stranded citizen. And what does Corey say? He doesn't respond in kind with profanity. He says, hold on, hold on. Once again, get your effing hands up. Drop. 3 shots.
Nothing about this was warranted except for Raja's desire to murder a man in cold blood, something which the jury certainly wasn't letting him get away with.
It got thrust upon him by the person that was supposed to be caring for his safety. He made a decision to shoot first and ask questions later. And one of the few people that should have unquestionably been there to assist him on the side of that road did exactly the opposite. Instead of being Corey Jones' saving grace, he was his angel of death.
Raja represents everything that is wrong with the police department these days, allowing absolute psychopaths to have positions of authority.
But see, this isn't the end of the story. Because now Corey Jones is running for his life. He is running for the cover of darkness. He's thrown down the gun already that he had in his hand that was meant to protect him. 10 seconds between the third and the fourth shot. 10 seconds for a young man running for the cover of darkness. 10 seconds for that defendant right there to finally do what he is supposed to do as a law enforcement officer. But that's not what the evidence is going to show he did.
The evidence would point to how this was in no way some accident or case of incompetence, but something much worse.
It's going to show his recklessness. His absolute reckless behavior from the start is now changing. It's evolving. It's now becoming a premeditated intent to kill. That 10 seconds was the time that he was able to reflect and consider what he was doing with that firearm in his hand.
Officer Raja had planned this from the start, but didn't do a good job of hiding his tracks.
That is no longer just in the heat of the moment. That is now premeditated intent with one specific desire, and that was to kill Corey Jones. He fired those last 3 shots at 1 second intervals each. Control. Boom. 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 Not fast, but controlled.
This was psychopathic level behavior, but unfortunately, this was not the only appalling thing Raja did.
He waits over 30 seconds to call 911. And why was he calling 911? Because he didn't have his radio on him like he's supposed to. He had to use his own phone to call 911, and he waited 30 seconds to call.
What would a normal person do if they even accidentally hurt someone? They'd help them. But what did Raja do?
Before getting much needed assistance, if he was truly in fear of his life, well, he needs to call the cavalry. 30 seconds. Doing what? Letting Corey Jones die. And how is he going to act?
This might be the only place where the prosecution might have been wrong. It may be likely this wasn't Raja's first time doing this.
With great power comes great responsibility. Law enforcement officers undoubtedly possess great power, great capacity for good, but that necessarily equals great responsibility in the way that those powers are used. They don't have a right to kill anybody without absolute necessity.
Raja may not have killed Jones over any sentimental or anger issues, but by simply not caring, as the prosecution clarified.
And he's going to explain to you, the judge will tell you what culpable negligence means. He's going to say it means a course of conduct showing a reckless disregard for human life or the safety of other persons exposed to its dangerous effects of conscious indifference to the consequences. I couldn't have thought up better words to explain exactly what he did.
But the situation goes even deeper, with the suggestion that Raja may have planned this murder from the start.
He was reckless from the start. He created the situation, and the evidence is going to show you that he could have only expected one result, the death of Corey Jones. But see, he doesn't get a free pass under the law for those last 3 shots. The last 3 shots that he waited 10 seconds to deliver, and took 1 second intervals in between each one. The law doesn't give him a free pass for those shots.
But even more horrific than this was the exact details of where the bullets hit Jones.
Corey was shot through the heart. He actually had his heart destroyed by that bullet, which is horrifically symbolic, saying that this young man lost his life because he lost his heart. You're going to hear a medical examiner come up here, forensic pathologist, and explain to you all the injuries that Corey Jones sustained. He was shot in the back of the arm, the back of this arm, on the right side of the upper arm, and went through right after. He was shot in the right side of his chest, and that bullet ripped through his body, destroyed his aorta, and lodged into his left shoulder.
Given the terrifying result of Raja's actions, and given how evil he had been proven to be, his version of events were still disgusting to hear.
He says, Corey Jones jumps out of the vehicle immediately, says, I'm okay. He says, police. And what did Corey do? According to him, during his statement, Corey jumps back and puts the gun at him. And now he's afraid for his life. That's what he says in his statement. That's not what happened. That's not what you hear in the AT&T recorded call from the roadside assistance folks.
It seems although Raja may have been a criminal, he certainly wasn't a smart one, as the prosecution ripped into him one final time.
We're confident that you're going to agree on the one verdict for which all the evidence will support. And that's a verdict finding him guilty as charged of being a reckless killer and for trying to murder Corey Jones. We're going to ask you to hold him responsible for how he misused that power.
And the worst part is, Raja expressed no remorse, and even his family tried to defend his actions. But the judge saw it differently.
We, the jury, find as follows. As to count 1, we find a defendant guilty of manslaughter while armed with a firearm as charged in the information. As to count 2, we found a defendant guilty of attempted first-degree murder as charged in the information. If you find a defendant guilty of attempted first-degree murder, you must next answer the following questions. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant actually possessed a firearm? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant actually discharged a firearm? Yes. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant in discharging the firearm actually caused great bodily harm or death to Corey L. Jones? Yes.
Alas, something finally good came out of this case, as Raja was forced to face his reckoning. Palm Beach County Judge Joseph Marks imposed a 25-year sentence on both counts Raja was convicted of, ruling the fired police officer will serve the sentences concurrently. However, unlike Raja, some cops are worse and go to even greater lengths to blame the victims themselves.
The defendant acted without considering or being aware of the substantial and unjustifiable risks associated with his conduct.
In November of 2021, Kansas City Sergeant Eric DeValkin stood trial for a 2019 shooting in which he and his partner fatally shot an unarmed black man, Cameron Lamb, in his own backyard. but it was the way he tried to justify it which was truly despicable.
He takes his left hand with the gun, and as he brings it along up and around the left-hand side of the steering wheel is when my focus moves from that weapon to the center of his chest.
And still, no information about a crime, no weapon of any kind that were in your mind that you knew about, no information like that at the time. You are now entering private property without a warrant, without probable cause, with your gun drawn.
Eric had claimed that Lamb was armed and had grabbed his gun, which he used to justify the shooting. But the judge soon exposed this as a lie while grilling him in court.
As all officers in my situation would have done.
Did you have time to get a warrant?
No, I did not.
Did you have a duty to protect your partner?
Yes, I did.
And do you believe that you ultimately saved his life?
Yes, I do.
Despite Eric's confidence, the prosecution revealed the truth of how long it actually took for him to make such a reckless decision.
9 seconds from the time you start to encounter this individual without a probable cause, without a warrant, without knowing what crime, before you pull the trigger. 9 seconds.
Before he presents the weapon in a threatening manner, correct?
Yes.
However, there was a reasonable suspicion to believe that the evidence of the incident had been tampered with. The gun that Eric claimed Lamb had drawn out was actually found in a box inside his staircase. However, the court was not going to let this slide.
There are a number of facts in this case that are both aggravating and mitigating, sometimes all at the same time. First and foremost is this undeniable and uncontested fact. Cameron Lamb is dead, and Eric DeValkin killed him. That's undisputed. Cameron Lamb was by all accounts a helpful and loving son, brother, father, and friend.
It is also undisputed that murdering someone without any suspicion of a crime occurring is the height of evil, and the judge's decision reflected this.
Have described him as funny, caring, giving. Miss Gray called him a protector, a jokester, and my favorite of all the ones that I read, not a saint, but our angel. Cameron Lamb's death leaves an irreparable and unfillable void in the lives of his family and his friends, and also in our community.
Given the severity of his crime, you would assume Sergeant Eric had a good reason for his actions, but this couldn't be further from the truth.
It can't be overlooked that the offense of December 3rd of 2019 were initially set into motion by Cameron Lamb, and his decision to chase his girlfriend through city streets at dangerously high speeds, putting motorists and other members of the public at risk. However, those events tragically concluded with the actions of Troy Schwam and the defendant. Pulling up to defendant's house, Sergeant Schwam pulling into the driveway, immediately getting out with his weapon drawn, rapidly moving into the backyard, carport, garage area of the house, and defendant doing the same.
Despite Lamb having broken the law, a traffic incident did not warrant the dangerous precautions taken by Eric, and especially not what he did next.
Both without taking a breath, without pausing for the briefest of moments to consider where they were going, what they would find when they got back there, whether they were acting lawfully in doing so, and whether there might be some other safer option. Without so much as a, "Hey Troy, wait." At any point, Sergeant Schwam and the defendant could have done this.
You'd think driving recklessly was still a sign of an unstable person. However, the judge revealed something that made Eric's actions even worse.
He did this when at some point, while he was chasing his girlfriend, he decided to discontinue the chase and to go home. The video from the helicopter shows this decision, shows how it played out. Cameron Lamb is not racing through the streets of his neighborhood at this point. He's not driving through yards to get away from anyone. He does not abandon the truck and let it roll into someone's yard while he flees on foot. Rather, he simply pulls into the driveway of his home, pulls around back, puts the vehicle into reverse, and slowly begins backing it down the driveway under the carport and into his garage.
The situation could have been left at that point, but it was Sergeant Eric's actions that proved why the police were beyond corrupt.
Then Sergeant Schwam and Eric DeValkin arrive, and as the court has found, an encounter that was over and a situation that had de-escalated was again escalated by what I have found, rightly or wrongly, was their unlawful entry into the backyard carport area and confrontation of Cameron Lamb. This is an aggravating factor.
Given how avoidable of a situation this was, the blame rested entirely on Eric, who was about to pay for what he did.
Cameron Lamb is dead. Eric DeValkin killed him. And the court has found that that happened because the defendant acted without considering or being aware of the substantial and unjustifiable risks associated with his conduct, and that his actions were a gross deviation from the standard of care that a reasonable person would exercise in the situation. Eric DeValkin on count 1, the Class E felony of involuntary manslaughter in the second degree, I sentence you to a term of incarceration in the Missouri Division of Adult Institutions of 3 years. On the unclassified felony of armed criminal action, I sentence you to a term of incarceration of 6 years.
Good riddance. Not all cops, however, get the same kind of treatment as Eric. Sometimes when a cop takes a life, the justice system unravels to expose all of its own corruption.
That is a felony. It is punishable by up to 15 years.
On June 5, 2024, Michigan trooper Brian Keley was called to court to answer for his actions involving the chase of a felon, Samuel Sterling. However, Keley did not expect the charges that the judge brought before him.
Mr. Keley, in this matter, the people are alleging that on or around April 17th of 2024, in the city of Kentwood, county of Kent, state of Michigan, you committed the following offenses: homicide, murder, second degree.
During Sterling's chase, Brian Keley had rammed straight into Sterling in an unmarked vehicle, fatally wounding him.
Said act committed without premeditation or deliberation, that is a felony. It is punishable by life or any term of years. A consecutive sentence may be imposed for each death that resulted from operating a vehicle, and your DNA is taken upon arrest.
Keley had served 25 years on the force. You'd think he'd have known better, but this just hinted at his true nature.
They also allege count 2, homicide, manslaughter, involuntary, in that you did cause the death of Samuel DeJohn Cornelius Sterling by committing the following act or acts in a grossly negligent manner.
If such a long-standing police officer was allowed to be this unprofessional, what does that say about others? However, he would soon face the consequences.
It is punishable by up to 15 years in the Department of Corrections and a fine of up to $7,500 with your DNA taken upon arrest, and a consecutive sentence may be imposed for each death that resulted from operating the vehicle.
This was much less than what someone like Keley deserved, yet he still had the audacity to do the following.
Attorney Curtis, how is your client pleading at this time?
Not guilty to both charges, Your Honor.
The court will enter not guilty pleas in each of these counts, and we will schedule a probable cause conference and a preliminary examination. The purpose of those hearings is for the people to prove that there is probable cause to believe the felony offenses were committed and that you are the individual who committed them.
As if it couldn't get any worse, his denial of the severity of his own actions is what would take the cake.
Bond, Your Honor. Mr. Detective Sergeant Keley turned himself in and has been cooperating with the investigation and also has been in contact with me almost on a daily basis. I have no concern that he is a flight risk. He is not. He's going to stand for the court and confront the charges. We're not concerned about him leaving the area. We're not concerned about him being a danger to the public, as in the fact that he was in the lawful performance of his duties.
Keep in mind, Keley did this with his own vehicle, not a squad car. But what is revealed next is truly what sealed his corrupt character.
He isn't currently working as a trooper or Michigan State Police at this point, so there isn't any concern of him being a danger further to the public as to the operation. He has an exemplary career as a trooper with the Michigan State Police. I'd ask the court to consider at least imposing a PR bond. I think that him being incarcerated would limit our ability to prepare for preliminary examination in this matter.
Keley is defended similarly to rich brats who are forgiven for being good kids, and unfortunately, it begins to work.
You're telling me that there are no prior instances of this nature in his history?
No, I've reviewed his personnel file, Your Honor. I've talked to, he is a man of faith, attends church regularly, and he is not a person that I am concerned that is not going to appear or is a danger to anyone.
Little to no criminal record, and certainly nothing that leads me to believe that there is a risk to public safety that is representative of the conduct alleged in this matter. I do agree.
Taking the law into your own hands and taking someone's life should be cause for concern, especially with the way Keley himself would try to dodge accountability.
I understand he is suspended from his duties at this time.
Filed for his retirement. The Michigan State Police have released to the media that he has retired from the department, but he was suspended without pay up until the Michigan State Police made that announcement to the media.
The fact the state approved his retirement as well, he'll still receive retirement pensions.
While justice was served in that case, the next corrupt cop made a reckless decision that left the judge absolutely furious.
On January 28, 2015, ex-cop William Melendez's traffic stop of Floyd Dent escalated dramatically. Court proceedings later revealed shocking details of the incident.
January 28, 2015, where his life changed forever. He was stopped by the defendant, a then Inkster police officer, and his partner, Officer Zelenowski. Mr. Dent was stopped for a minor traffic offense and ordered out of his vehicle. With his hands extended out of his driver's window, he was grabbed out, thrown to the ground, and struck 16 times in the head. In his attempt to arrest him, he was thrown onto a window shield of a patrol car, bleeding profusely from a head injury. The responding police officers arrived as the defendant is wrestling the defendant to the ground. Mr. Dent was struck, kicked, and tased while on the ground by what appeared to be a group of angry, anxious police officers that celebrated after the defendant was beaten.
As the judge recounted the events, the officers' actions became increasingly disturbing. The aftermath of their conduct was particularly appalling.
The video in the car shows the police officers fist bumping as a celebratory act of bravery by the defendant and his cohorts. But the one image that struck out to the court was looking at Mr. Dent in his cell, shaking his head. In disbelief of what had occurred to him. What crime did I commit? Being a black man in a Cadillac, stopped for a minor traffic offense by a group of racist police officers looking to do a nigger. As police officer John Zelenowski, auxiliary police officer, testified in court too, in his response to a text, was quoted as saying, "At least give me the satisfaction of knowing that you're out there beating up right now. LOL."
What makes the situation bad is that the officers had no shame in what they did. They were actually enjoying their gruesome acts openly.
How does this happen? On January 28, 2015, you did not fulfill your job. You performed Just Us, a game that began with a police stop. The purpose of it was to harass and degrade a motorist in Inkster, the man chosen for your game. Let's follow a car in a known drug area, and based on your years of training experience, you knew that the motorist would likely be a black person no license, armed with a gun or drugs in a vehicle. Upon stopping Mr. Dent, you knew, and upon stopping Mr. Dent, who was dead wrong for driving with no license or license suspended, running stop signs, and weaving in and out of the back street, which the court saw in the video. Upon being stopped, Mr. Dent put his hands out of the driver's window in plain view. Your partner and you pulled him out. When he didn't move fast enough for you, you refer to it as resisting. I call it bowing down to your command. You utilized your dirty, hairy tactics and used excessive force to arrest him. Your job was twofold: investigate the situation, be a positive example to Officer Zelenowski, kicking and tasing and ultimately throwing Mr. Dent into a windshield of a police car with a dash cam, which I refer to as the eye of justice. You were so into your bravado that you forgot the eye of justice was watching you and recording this disgusting beating, seeing Mr. Dent slammed into the window shield with blood running down his face.
This was also a hate crime because of the text messages exchanged. Racism is still pretty much alive in our police system to this day.
Fist busting after taking him down as a sign of bravery was just another cowardly act caught by the eye of justice. You knew better. You were better trained than any of those officers out there. You were more experienced. Took me several days to read the letters that people sent talking about your character, about the man that you are. 3 of those letters, I believe, were from African Americans, and one even professed to be like a mother. One or two things: either they're all racist or there's something redeeming about you that somehow in some way you forgot that night. The way you denigrated that man was awful. Who would know and who would care about a lone black man being assaulted by upstanding police officers? Boy, were you wrong.
We need more judges like her in our country today. She fearlessly stated the obvious and courageously addressed all the issues that everyone else was avoiding.
The other eye of justice captured you and your posse making fun of Mr. Dent, mimicking him struggling while you all wiped the blood off your uniforms with disinfectant while he watched. Such an awesome, caring, properly trained police officer. You led your fellow officers down a path of cowardly behavior. But today you will pay for it. There's an old saying, it ain't no fun when the rabbit's got the gun. It's equally applicable when he has the video. The eye of justice in this case. You betrayed your city. You caused your lovely wife heartache. And you caused Mr. Dent severe anguish. And finally, in the words of Vicki Yost, your commander, accountability is required to ensure continued community trust and healing.
The judge went on to humiliate the cop in front of everyone in the courtroom. The officer sat silently, showing no expression until it was time for his sentencing.
Only you and God can change your character. I've had an opportunity to listen to both sides. And I had to say this because I didn't say this during the trial. But it was my privilege to be able to oversee this trial because I had great lawyers, and great lawyers make jobs real easy. I am going to commit you to the Michigan Department of Corrections. However, after weighing the allegations in this particular matter and looking at all the circumstances, including what you've done and who the person I really believe that you are, I'm going to commit you to the Michigan Department of Corrections as to count 1 for no less than 13 months, no more than 10 years. As to count 2, I'm going to give you 90 days credit for time served and close it out. The court's going to give you 85 days for credit. You have 42 days to appeal my decision. That concludes this matter. Thank you.
Although some might argue that the punishment was not enough, it's still a win that the officer had to serve time and that he won't be on the force afterwards. Next up, we have the court hearing of Shawn Paul Reyes versus the state of Connecticut. Shawn sued the officers after he was taunted out of a public building.
Reyes circled around me and did not give me his name or accept the department card. As he headed up the stairwell, I thought in the best of City Hall, I keep him on the ground and prevent him from going upstairs. He kept coming toe-to-toe with me. I extended my arms to prevent him from going to the second floor. Okay.
This is what it is.
If you want to, yeah. All right, do me a favor, we're not done yet. Sit. Where's the pen? You got your pen?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to submit a warrant. I'm going to review the camera footage, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to get his statement. I got his statement, your statement, and the camera footage.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that all in a report.
Yeah.
I'm going to review it.
Yeah.
If I have probable cause to believe that your actions rose to the level of, I would call it an assault, since luckily he admitted to me that he was not injured and he did not want medical attention.
Yeah.
Although an impairment of, injury, according to definition, is impairment of physical condition. So I'm not going to do it to you.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't.
I know it doesn't matter. If you push somebody, I'm not going to do it to you because I don't want to assault you. But if you impaired somebody's physical condition,
like that. I just kind of put my hands up.
Well, okay. So, however, if I think it rose to the level of a discon, I'll submit warrants, maybe even for both of you. If some of his language is to the point where it's disruptive. Then I'll submit a warrant for both of you, and we'll see what and then it's up to the court.
So you're telling me I can get arrested?
Yes, it's up to the court. You got physical with somebody that, for the most part, you really had no reason to be physical with.
I didn't want him going. I wasn't going upstairs.
I know, but for what? For what? He's filming. What is he doing? Why can't he go upstairs? It's a public building. It's City Hall, for Christ's sake.
Like I said, if I was given those forms,
you know.
Shawn doesn't use any disruptive language and remains respectful. I'm sure you've seen us review multiple videos of his audits. The real deal is how physical the officer got.
After I had watched the library incident, I had seen on his channel that nearly every single one of those videos cast the police in a negative light. So I was fearful that regardless of what I did that day, right or wrong, the same would be done to me. Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Right. That didn't happen to you, right?
Oh, no, it did.
It did?
Yep.
Okay. And the incident at the library that you're talking about, the videos, you're talking about the videos involving, I think it's Tippett's and Utter, and the statement that if he'd done something 20 years ago, he would have been dead in the back of someone's truck.
Objection is what?
20 years ago, that would be dead. His teeth would be missing.
I'd have removed his teeth. He would be dead.
This is not going to end well with you, you know that.
Okay, we'll see.
So the cop was worried that Shawn's video would cast him in a bad light by referring to a library video where a cop gave him death threats.
Relevance, hearsay, outside the scope of direct. Sustain. Keep going.
Okay. The incident at the library, were you familiar with what happened there?
Objection, same, all three grounds.
Keep brought it up, Judge.
There's been some discussion in the trial thus far about the incident that happened over the message question.
And that involved Danbury Police Department, police officers, right?
The incident, I'm sorry.
At the library, sir?
Yes, it did.
And you're familiar with the library incident, right?
Yes.
And are you familiar that Mr. Reyes made a complaint about Danbury police officers in that case?
Objection, relevance. I want to allow it as...
At the time of this...
Okay, here's how it's going to work. He's going to ask a question. Okay. He may object. I didn't rule the objection. You don't answer until I rule the objection. Got it. It's going to be easier for everyone. And that's the question I need because I fall. So let's try that again. Ask the question again, answer and see.
These two incidents had totally different levels of intensity. The defense, in this case the state, was trying their best not to have the other Danbury officers be included in this hearing, because their statements were beyond inhumane. But the judge was annoyed by their interruptions.
At what point?
At any point.
I was. I received a couple on my work voicemail, but I didn't put my.
Did you put that in the police report somewhere?
Well, I was threatened after the fact.
Well, threats are important, aren't they?
It depends if you feel threatened or not, and I didn't feel threatened by them. I just deleted them. They were on my work voicemail.
So you didn't feel threatened about what people had said, correct?
Objection, pass the next.
I'll allow him to answer your question. Objection overruled.
It's a tough thing. I can threaten you right now. It all depends how you feel about it. I would hope that, you wouldn't feel threatened by me, but so at the time, I just deleted those messages. I don't remember if I felt threatened or not, but I didn't want to. I just deleted it. It was only a couple. It wasn't like the other people, other officers.
This cop was just bluffing. Threats are no joke, and those threats could have been substantial evidence against Shawn in this case, but they weren't real to begin with.
Approach. Off the record. Approach.
Mr. Reyes arrested, is that what you did?
I would object because that mischaracterizes the testimony. He said he had it in the morning, not the afternoon.
Sustained. It does mischaracterize the testimony. Ask a question, please.
Sir.
Everything Shawn's lawyers said raised an objection. Were all of his actions irrelevant? The defense didn't have any points of their own, so it seemed like they only wanted to disrupt Shawn's attorney. The judge was getting furious.
You weren't present in the clerk's office the afternoon of July 15th, 2021, correct?
Objection, ask the answer.
Sustained. We've had that.
Did the warrant that you did for Mr. Reyes pertain to conduct that occurred on July 15th, 2021 in the town clerk's office in the afternoon, sir? Yes or no, if you can?
Objection.
Nope.
That's the answer.
Okay. We're taking a recess. Counsel in chambers now.
All rise. Court's now in recess.
The judge was furious. He ordered both the lawyers into his chambers, and we can faintly hear how his mood was. The state's attorney's objections were so annoying that the judge had to personally give him an earful. The fact that the judge hasn't put a stop to this waste of taxpayer money speaks volumes about the level of corruption we're looking at here.
Well, that brings us to the end of this video. Today we saw cases where pathetic killer cops were destroyed in court and sent to prison. Thanks for watching. Please support the channel by subscribing and leaving a like. Also, if you enjoyed this video, check out the next video here.